This story was submitted by Calix. A few years ago, I was working as a call center employee at a large company smack in the middle of Manila, right by the biggest mall in the Philippines. It was quite a distance away from where I lived, and riding a bus, it would take me about an hour to get there without traffic. Traffic in Manila is a nightmare. As we cater to customers in the United States, our schedules are often at night to match their timetable. This particular month I had incurred some absences, and I was given the only schedule that no one had taken, the closer schedule, as we call it. I start work at 2 in the morning and finish at 11 a.m. Many would curse this schedule, but me, I loved it. I did not have to worry about traffic, and I get off work when the mall is already open. Having been working since I was 18, I am used to commuting to work and having no problems getting to and from the office. I am also quite vigilant, alert, and have never been held up or mugged, which is quite a fashion in Manila during recent years, especially for call center employees who work in the dead of the night. I prepare as usual to go to work. I leave my house at around 12:30 a.m. to give me ample time to get set up when I get to the office. I rode the first air-conditioned bus that passed me. Now, as I mentioned, I am quite vigilant. I do not sit anywhere beside a shady person, and I only sit by the window if it's beside a female, to avoid being cornered in case a sicko tries to do anything funny. I also always sit near the driver, so that means either the 2-seater parallel to the bus driver, or the 3-seater right behind him. This particular night, the bus was relatively empty. It was late, plus there is only a handful of people going in the direction of the mall as it's already closed. Most of the passengers would get off the bus at the stop before the bus gets to the mall. The mall was the last stop. The 2-seater was occupied by 2 men, one of which was, by the looks of it, sound asleep. The 3-seater was occupied by a single man who looked shady, so I decided to sit 3 rows down. I put on my earphones as this was going to be an hour-long ride, and I wanted to relax with my music while on it. There were only a few passengers sprinkled all over the bus that night. A couple 2 rows behind me, 3 men a few more rows back, an elder couple parallel to them, and a group of young people at the very back. Halfway through the ride, the man sitting on the aisle seat at the extreme front got off, and I immediately collected my things to transfer to the empty seat, when one of the 3 men at the back beat me to it. I cursed under my breath and returned to my seat, disappointed. Maybe another 10 minutes passed, when things got really interesting. I couldn't understand it at first, as I was wearing my earphones on and couldn't hear anything of what they were saying, but the man in front was shaking the sleeping passenger awake. The man behind the driver stood up and walked his way to them a few moments later. It appeared like they were having a conversation. It really didn't matter to me as I wasn't interested in what they were talking about, until I saw the horrified expression on the now awake passenger's face. Immediately I took off one earphone and tried to listen in while pretending I still wasn't interested. I listened in to him saying something along the lines of,
"Give it to me, or I'll stick this in your gut."
I couldn't see what it was that he was going to stick into this man's gut, as the other guy was obscuring my view, but it doesn't take a genius to figure out it must have been a knife, or an ice pick, or some other sharp object. The poor guy's face was pale, maybe because of how abruptly his sleep was cut off, or maybe because whatever it was he was about to get stuck with was now being pressed at his side. The other 2 men at the back came in front and obscured my view even more. Now I absolutely couldn't see anything other than their backs until the bus stopped and they got off, all 4 of them. They left the poor guy ashen-faced and shaken. Apparently they took his bag, which contained a hefty sum of cash, his laptop, and 2 smartphones. He wasn't hurt, but damn he could have been if he had fought. The bus driver dropped the man off at the nearest police station to lodge a report. According to the driver, who was able to hear the whole thing, the guy was going to fight back, as he was a seasoned mixed martial arts enthusiast and could have easily disarmed one of the crooks and knocked them both out. However, When the other two men came over, one of them shoved him with a gun. I'm pretty sure his punches and kicks won't make it in time before holes are put through him if he fought. You also have to note that a driver and a bus conductor were present in all this. They can't do anything to stop the crooks because they go through the same route every day, multiple times a day, and the crooks will get back at them if they intervened. It was kind of like a system, you see. This wasn't something that happened to me, but what chilled me to the bone was the thought that kept running through my head the rest of the trip. What if I had taken the seat? He was going to get off just a few minutes before he was mugged. What if I had taken that seat and was left to be cornered instead? I was about 5'3", 95 pounds, and had absolutely nothing to defend myself with. It chills me to the bones to think that it could have been me. I have since left this job, and took a day job, and opted to buy myself pepper spray to carry with me at all times. Things like this happen a lot, and you never know. One can never be too careful. This story was submitted by Al. This is a true story that happened to me and my buddies, Randy, John, and Mike, on our hunting trip last year. My friend Mike's family owns a very large piece of land in southern Missouri. We started hunting there when we were all 10 years old. Now that we were 19 and 20 years old, it was our first time going on our own. Usually Mike's uncle would always go with us, but because of health problems he could not make the trip this year. We were all pretty worried about Mike's uncle, and almost did not go to stay around with him, but he insisted that we go, so that is what we did. We were stoked to have a hunting cabin and 500 acres to ourselves. We were going to make the best of it, since we don't see each other much now that we're out of high school. I was always a very protective person, and was the mature one of the group, so I packed my AR-15, along with my .30-30 Winchester lever action that I used for hunting. I usually would not bring my AR-15, but since it was just us, I decided to pack it for the ultimate protection. We packed up the truck and started on the 2-hour drive to the property. We were all very excited, hoping to bag a trophy buck to hang on the wall and to load our freezers for a while. We got to the property off the long drive, and I had realized I forgot my Copenhagen that I had brought for the trip. The nearest gas station was a good 15 minutes away, so I was bummed to have to drive again and get some more. We did not unload the truck because I knew I was going to be right back. When I got back, all of my buddies were just sitting on the porch. I thought this was a bit odd because it was mid-November and it was very cold. I got out of the truck and said, "What the hell are you all doing? It's cold as hell out here." They had left all of their thermals and whatnot in the truck while I ran to the gas station, so all they were wearing were shirts and jeans. Randy told me that I had to see something, and they all looked really freaked out, which was odd because we were all pretty big and tough guys. They took me around back, and I will never forget what I saw. There were probably 15 rabbits with their throats slit and necks broken just laying in the yard. It was not uncommon to see animals' bodies eaten up by coyotes on the property, but these were very fresh. The blood was still warm, and they did not smell at all, nor had they been eaten. I had no idea how this was possible. We looked around to see if there were any traps set, but we could not find a single one after searching for 20 minutes. We rounded up all the rabbits and put them in black trash bags and disposed of them. Usually we eat rabbits, but we did not know where these came from. We decided to call it a night after unpacking the truck and getting everything sorted out. Nothing too strange happened that night, other than the usual creaking of the old wood cabin. We woke up the next day and made some breakfast. Nothing strange, right? Well, wrong. My buddy John went outside to take a piss because Mike was using the bathroom. When he got outside, he yelled, "Guys, get the hell over here!" We went out there, and he looked pissed. He found a note taped to the truck that read,
"Get the fuck out."
He thought one of us was trying to screw with the others. After pleading to him that it was none of us, we had to make a decision. Do we stay, or do we leave? We figured it was just another hunter that we kicked off the property the year before that knew we were coming back out. We decided to stay because we've had our best memories at this property growing up and wanted to make a few more. There was still a little tension between us because we still thought that one of us had to be doing it. That all came to a stop with what happened later that day. We noticed our hunting locations had been a little neglected because no one had been down there to keep the brush down since the year previous. We spent our first day clearing brush and fixing the stand, which sucked. We were not too worried about it though, because the deer were always very active and we never had a dull hunting trip. While we were clearing the bushes, we noticed someone standing way off in the distance. We could not tell who it was, but we knew they should not be there since it was my buddy's family's property, and none of his family was hunting on the property besides us. Mike and I hopped on our four-wheelers and drove over there, while Randy and John stayed behind clearing brush. Mike and I went because we are the biggest, each of us being about 6'4" and around 275 pounds. We had our rifles on us, and we were ready to end whatever these people had started. We were not planning on shooting them over a couple of silly threats. We were hoping that our stature alone would warn them off. It was a pretty good distance away where we spotted the guy, and when we finally got there, we asked the guy what the fuck he was doing on this property. He just started laughing. We told him that he needs to leave before shit gets started, and that he had no right being where he was. Around those parts, you don't call the law. You are the law. And we knew we could handle it on our own. This guy did not look right. He had a blank expression to everything we said, and he would just laugh whenever we would yell at him. Then we noticed movement in the woods behind him. We were pretty freaked out at this time, but did our best not to show it. We told him we did not know what he wanted, and he should just leave before someone gets hurt. We knew he was the one doing everything to us, just by his expression. When we said this, 2 more guys walked out of the woods. We got off our four-wheelers, guns drawn, and we told them once again to leave us the fuck alone. None of them said a word. We figured they were just some drunken idiots that had a camp set up on our property. One of them told us that we needed to fucking leave. That is when Mike got very irritated. He got right up in the guy's face and started yelling that this was his property. Once again, blank expressions and slight laughter. When we realized we were getting nowhere with these guys, we got back on our four-wheelers and left, hoping that they would get the message that we were not fucking around. We went back to Randy and John and continued to clear the brush and set up for the next day. They did not even ask what happened. I think they were mostly freaked out by the whole situation, and were just hoping we took care of it. After supper, we started a fire in the fireplace, and had a few beers to settle our nerves. Mike and I were still very pissed off, while Randy and John were just freaked out. It was silent that night. None of us really wanted to talk. Finally, something broke the silence. It was not one of us, though. We heard people running around the cabin. I grabbed my AR-15 and was ready to put an end to this. I waited by the door and was waiting for someone to fuck with us. Rocks started being thrown at the cabin. One came through the window and nearly hit Randy in the head. We knew they were just right outside, so Mike grabbed his rifle and we went outside. I shot a couple of rounds in the direction that I thought they were, aiming a good 10 feet off the ground because I did not want to shoot anyone unless I absolutely had to. I think this caught them off guard, and everything stopped. We did not see them in the pure darkness of the night. You literally could not see 10 feet in front of you. After waiting for a good 20 minutes, we figured they had run off. We made our way inside, and we didn't see Randy or John. We finally found them in the bedroom with guns drawn at the door. They nearly killed us because of how scared they were. Both of them were pale white, and John was about to throw up. They wanted to leave right then, but we were not going to leave with a couple of maniacs running around on the property. We went to bed that night, all sleeping in the family room by the fire. Everything went smooth that night, and we hoped we had scared the guys off. The next day we went hunting in the morning, and nothing happened that whole day. I was the only one that did not get a deer, and the guys were giving me crap. We always bagged on each other, but we were all just kidding. The whole day was kind of a relief. No sight of the guys, and we thought the problem was over. The next day we got up in the morning and went to our stands. When we got to our stands, we noticed something off in the distance that we had not seen the day before. We saw smoke coming over the woodline on the other side of the field. It looked like a fire that had just been put out. We decided to walk over to where the smoke was coming from so they would not hear our four-wheelers. We could smell the smoke the closer we got, so we knew we were getting close. We got on the other side of the woods and saw a campsite. It was not just 1 or 2 tents. There were at least 10 tents. It looked like a huge campsite out there. We did a little snooping and found drug paraphernalia. Missouri is notorious for meth. A lot of times you will find makeshift meth labs out in fields, so we knew that was what we came across. Now we knew that we were dealing with a bunch of junkies. Those types of people will do just about anything to get money, so we knew they would not think twice about trying to rob us. We were all pretty freaked out by this and did not know what to do, but it also looked like all the people were gone. There was no one in sight. We figured that we probably scared them off, and we were not going to go anywhere. A sense of pride came over us, and we did not want to just give in to these meth heads, so we decided to stay once again. We did not want our hunting trip disturbed any more than it had been, so we just went on our way, making sure not to touch any of their shit so they would not do anything stupid again. We went back to the cabin to find it completely destroyed. There was trash everywhere, and the dead rabbits that we had put in the trash were scattered all over the porch and yard. They also spray painted all over the cabin. Some of the words were very hard to read, but what we could read said,
"Get the fuck out now, or we will kill you."
We were definitely ready to go by then. We packed up the truck and left. Once we got back into town, we called Mike's uncle, and he said that he would take care of it since he was good friends of the sheriff in that town. The whole car ride back was pretty silent, other than the spitting of tobacco. We are all going back this year. Hopefully I will have better luck bagging a deer without meth heads trying to kill us. If you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. If you would like a chance to have your story featured in an upcoming video, make sure you check the description on information on how to submit your stories. Now for the first story. It's a very good idea that you went and got yourself some personal protection, even though you're not working the night shift. Shit like this happens during the day all the time, as most of you know. Hopefully you never have to use it, but it's always a good thing to have just in case. Now for the second story. I don't blame you guys for leaving after you get back and find the whole cabin trashed. Obviously these guys are willing to do pretty much anything to get you out of there. So it would have come down to either you shooting them, or them probably shooting you. So it was probably a wise decision to just retreat and let the law enforcement deal with it. Hopefully when you guys go back out this year, you don't run into them again, or any other crazy tweakers out there. And on a side note, hopefully you can bag a deer. I hope you all had a great weekend, and I'll catch you in the next video. And just remember, it's always scarier if it's true.